Right, so this is a little lower than the angels, and I'll pick up where I left off. As Gabriel began work up in the roof, and his eyelids and nose and hair and ears got clogged with dark grey stone dust, he could hear the crowd settle facing the stage. He could hear the murmured excitement, the shrill bleat of women laughing. Then the church door banged open, and a voice shouted in, "We can't have you banging in here. We can hear you on the other side of town. Come and watch the mystery, why don't you?" The mason seethed. He looked at one apprentice, then the other. Their hopeful faces seemed to sting him like wasps. "There's work needs doing," he snarled at the figure in the doorway. "Look at it my way," said the man in the doorway patiently. "You can come and watch, or you can carry on banging, and I'll take your chisel and your lads' chisels, and I'll push them down your uncivil throat. Today I'm God, and what God says is, and always will be, evermore. Amen. Got it?" And that was how Gabriel came to see his first play. A row of women who were sharing bench waved at him and shuffled sideways, making room. He squeezed in between them, embarrassed at the touch of their plump, creamy arms. They smelt of fresh bread and lavender. "Of course, they're not our men," one confided in his ear, "but they're not locals. Did you hear of such a thing? Worthless outsiders, I dare say. But just look at heaven. Isn't that a thing?" He followed the direction of her eyes and saw heaven. He had walked past it on the way out of the church without even seeing it. At the top of a flowery hill, on a cloud as large as a toboggan, sat a smiling sunburned figure in glittering robe, and reclining at his feet, another ridge of cloud, lay a fat sleepy angel, his skirts billowing in the wind. But Gabriel could not keep his eyes on heaven as much as he wanted to. He tried not to look at the left-hand side of the stage, where a hideous head gaped its fanged jaws wide open to swallow a grown man. Its tongue lolled on the stage. The smoke trickled gently but continuously out of the back of its throat, and stared in horrid fascination, and the hair stirred on the back of his neck. The creature's eye cracked open, blazing green, and looked directly at him. The women along the bench squealed and accidentally squashed Gabriel between them as they breathed in. He did not notice. He thought it was fright had stopped him breathing. He could not understand why. A moment later there was a cheery laughter and a round of applause. "Bless you, child, it's only a play," said a woman whose arm he had grabbed, pressing his dirty face into her dress. "That's the mouth of hell, that is, where all damned souls go on the day of judgment for being wicked. Gobble, 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 ha, ha, ha." Out on the slopes of heaven stepped a tall, dark-haired boy. He put a recorder to his lips and began to play, and from somewhere beneath his feet an invisible fountain of music burst into a startled sky. So magical was the sound that a tree raised itself up off the wooden platform. A big red apple swung from it like a shop sign. Some of the audience began to sing, but their singing petered out as a gruesome man lizard slithered out gaping, smoking mouth of hell. His horned, scaly, hooded face peered out into the audience and grinned. He was booed loudly by women alongside. Gabriel took an apple core out of her skirt pocket and threw it. It hit the church door. "Out, out, unhappy me, who lately thought to be the proudest of them all, thrown down from heaven to hell, once an angel bright, the fairest golden winged sight that ever did you see, but now unhappy me." Gabriel opened his eyes and ears as wide as windows, and flew sight into sound as much as he had never known. A man and a woman in red white cloaks, animals, and angels singing, and God himself, perched cross-legged upon the slopes of heaven. When it came to an end, he could not tell he had seen or what he had imagined. When the devil described the fiery regions of hell, it was both wonderful and terrible. He wept for the poor bare lady and gentleman, Adam and Eve, thrown out of the lovely Garden of Eden because they ate the big red apple. He knew what they were feeling. He felt just the same as the mason's cart pulled away from his own little cottage, and he looked back and saw his mother waving and waving and waving. The woman on the bench thrust her apron into Gabriel's face and wiped his nose. "Don't take on so, child. It's only a play, I told you." The play was over. The devil had crawled on his belly back into the mouth of hell with a lump of charcoal in his mouth, and the fat billowing angel had gone up to heaven and sat beside God. The clouds had hidden from both from sight. Gabriel knew the story. He could not remember why, but he'd always known the story. Many times in his first year of his apprenticeship, he had seen stained glass windows showing a selfless story. But to see it happen, and then there, in front of his eyes, that was different. "It was the most wonderful thing I'd ever seen," he whispered into the woman's ear, and he wiped his nose again with her hand. "Bless him. He's a good-looking little lad, isn't he?" she said to her friends along the bench. "All those lovely golden curls. I wish I had hair as pretty." "Who are you with? Your father?" "Thought not. There's none of his ugly mug in you." "Is that a fact?" It was the mason's voice. One hand took hold of Gabriel's long hair and pulled him on tiptoe. The other, taking hold of his jerkin, lifted him backwards over the clear over the bench, so that his feet knocked against the fat woman's head and sent her head clothes tumbling. "Big bully," said the woman, but they did not come to Gabriel's help.